Good afternoon. Hello, my name is Eric Danoff, and I'm the Director of Demand Generation at SalesScreen. And I'll be your host for today's webinar. I want to thank you all for taking time out of your busy day to join our webinar on the SDR team's fundamentals, how DemandBase uses gamification to build pipeline while having fun. Before we begin today, I have a few housekeeping notes to share. Today's session is being recorded. All attendees are in listen and view only mode, and today's webinar will include a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. But you may ask a question at any time during today's webinar, and I'll make sure to bring that to the attention of our two speakers. So to ask a question, just make sure if you guys do not know, you have to go ahead and click on the Q&A button on the nice little Zoom toolbar that you see at the bottom. So type in your question, and then just click the send button, and then I will go ahead and read the question on your behalf. And please note only the speakers, Dana, Kevin, and myself, can see your questions. Also, we'll be sharing some links in the chat window, so look out for those. And lastly, we'll be running some Zoom polls so we can hear from you all. So I'm so excited for today's sessions. During today's webinars, our speakers, Kevin and Dana, will be having a conversation on how DemandBase's SDR team has embraced gamification to create a fun and competitive atmosphere, how DemandBase's SDR team has been able to stay engaged, motivated, and increase pipeline while being 100% remote. And you're going to learn something very, very unique about DemandBase. You're going to hear about something called Shark Week. So stay on the edge of your seats because they're going to have a lot of great things to hear about that. So at this time, I would like to introduce our speakers for today's event, Kevin Rooney, Senior Director of Sales Development at DemandBase, and Dana Mirabella, VP of Global Customer Success at SalesScreen. So glad to have you join us, guys.
Great to be here. I'm really excited. Kevin and I have done a ton of prep sessions, and he shared some really great stories that I'm going to pull out of him today, hopefully, for everyone on the call to learn a little bit about the really unique and exciting things that Kevin does. So let's kind of jump right in. Gamification plays a really big role in DemandBase's culture, and Kevin really drives that. So for those who may not be as familiar with gamification, can you just give us a brief background as to how it plays into the culture for your team at DemandBase?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, I just wanted to say I'm really excited to be here as well. I love sharing these types of stories, especially around all these fun topics. So thanks for having me. But when it comes to gamification, this was a huge part of what we did at DemandBase pre-COVID. So when we're in the office, we're trying to drive fun, healthy competition amongst the team because it's going to help us hit our goals. And that was really important to us. But once COVID came around, things became very uncertain. People started working from home. We didn't really know how to bring back that same environment of gamification. And we were just unsure of what the future held. So I know we'll never really replicate what it's like to be in the office next to somebody. But once we brought on SalesScreen during COVID, it really changed the game for what we were trying to do. We can now run like some really cool competitions, bring back the fun to the SDR team, which gets us to our goals while also bringing up the motivation, getting the team closer together, and making it not so lonely being home alone, trying to make cold calls and send out emails. So it's been a huge part of our culture, especially since bringing on SalesScreen.
Yep. And since this webinar is about fun, you've already mentioned it quite a bit of times. How do you think about that? Like as a leader, right? You have both managers and then indirectly like ICs. So the SDR is actually rolling into you. So when you think about that fun aspect, are you thinking about it differently for your leaders versus your ICs?
It's a really good question. And the answer is yes, I do think about it a little bit differently. When I think about the individual contributors, and I've kind of hinted at this a little bit, I felt so bad for SDRs during COVID. Imagine going from an office setting where there's that low hum in the office where everybody's making cold calls and you're talking to each other about what's happening, to then going home and being by yourself and probably getting rejected a few times a day over the phone or via email. And you've got no one to really lean on and talk to about that rejection and how to keep moving forward. You also might have people on your team that probably just started once COVID happened, so they don't even know anybody on the team that they can talk to. So I think when I think of fun for the individual contributors is how can we bring back the energy, the motivation, and the drive to get excited about being an SDR every single day. So for us, it was bring on some prizes that they're going to care about, have some healthy competition where they can compete against each other for different coins and things like that. So I think the fun for an individual contributor is all around that energy and excitement. Now, from a manager side, it's a little bit different, where the thing that's going to make me smile month after month is if we hit our numbers. That is really where I have a good time. So what SalesScreen allowed us to do is still hit our pipeline goals that are important to me, while also driving up that motivation for the team. And we have 3 things that we look for here at DemandBase from a leadership side. We want to make sure that we're developing our people, we have a high energy culture, and we're crushing our pipeline numbers. And SalesScreen really helped us do that.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting too, how much you talk about motivation with fun and gamification, that it's not just like, it's kind of a puzzle with all 3 pieces where you can have games, but if they're not fun, it's really boring. And without that, how do you keep the team motivated? You mentioned prizes, which I think is really interesting. You do a lot of fun things for your team, and I'm sure that wasn't easy to come up with. So when you thought about prizes for motivation, how did you think about like making sure that it made sense for the team and that the prizes were motivating and played to that fun factor?
Yeah, well, I think motivation is a really important piece to SDR leadership, where you really have to understand what are the things that are going to get your team excited and make them do all the activities they have to do and hit their quota. So from my perspective, the easy route could have been just using all the options that are already built inside of SalesScreen and just going from there. But what we wanted to do, and I synced up with my SDR leaders on this as well, is we just asked the team, what are the things that you care about? What are the prizes that would get you excited, if you could win some of these competitions? So they came up with some really cool things. We basically gave them no restrictions, and they came up with like flight vouchers, Airbnb credits, tickets to sports games and concerts. And I think one of the fun pieces is I actually limit how many of those are available. So that's where the motivation really comes in. So if you really want that prize, you better save up those coins and start winning those competitions so you could be the first one to get that prize. So I think that's made it really fun.
It's fun that you've put some like pep in their step just around metrics, but also meant an additional like timeline on the prizes. That's pretty interesting, that I don't think a lot of customers think about. Like sometimes that reward shop gets stale, but adding things and taking away, so they feel like, okay, I have to get the coins, I could save up, or I can quickly, move to get that prize that I want before it goes away, is an interesting part of how you think about the rewards as your motivation tool. Go ahead.
Dana, I think this would be a nice time actually to also hear from our audience as to why you guys want to go, why they joined us today, and to kind of help shape the rest of the conversation you guys are going to have. So audience, what we're going to do is actually we're going to run a quick little Zoom poll as to why you guys decided to join us today. You got to heard a really nice little introduction from Kevin and Dana as to learning about how they're using gamification over at DemandBase, but we would also like to understand why you guys are here today. So at this time, I'm going to launch a very, very quick Zoom poll. It's going to basically start popping up in your Zoom toolbar, and we would love to actually hear from everybody. There's around 6 questions. And the questions is, what are your biggest challenges managing SDRs and BDR teams right now? And if you don't manage an SDR BDR team, you can also go ahead and answer it and respond to this as if you were, just your own sales team. So at the time we launch it, it should be popping up. Please go ahead and enter, and I'll give you some little music to go ahead and pull it along. So.
All right. Should we keep going, or you want everyone to answer the poll first?
Let's go ahead and let them go through a few more. So just a few more seconds.
Okay.
And that way. A few more seconds.
Kevin and I are going to try to incorporate some of the points for the poll too, which is why we're waiting. Do it on the fly.
Yeah. Yes. So just a few more seconds. Let's go ahead and end the poll, and I'm going to share results. And so here you go, guys. It seems like the number one biggest challenge that people have in managing SDR BDR teams right now is motivating and ensuring the team is competing and enough reach outs, calling us to drive meetings. So, and in second, gain the team to use your tools and input data. And I know Kevin and Dana, you guys are going to talk a little bit more about later. With that, I will go ahead and stop sharing and take it from here.
Cool. I think that's actually a really good segue, since most of you are wondering how to motivate your team, into kind of our next topic, just around the SDR role in general, right? Like, to Kevin's point, when people are at home, it could be kind of rejecting. You're constantly on the phone, you're calling, you're trying to book those meetings. So it can be really easy to get a little measurement crazy as an SDR leader, where you're only looking at those specific activities. So when you think about how you motivate your team around the metrics and just things in general so that you don't become a little measurement crazy. Like, what are some of the things that you're using to compete for your team today?
Yeah, well, I will say from an SDR leader perspective, we obviously care about all the metrics. We want to know how many activities everyone's doing, what types of activity, meetings that they're booking, are they turning into opportunities, are we getting pipeline? And then of course, conversion rates are going to be super important there as well. The problem is SDRs don't really care too much about all of those metrics. What they care about is what's going to get them paid, what's going to get them the visibility to move up and get promoted. And I think from our side, one thing that we say from a leadership perspective is, you're right, we don't care as much about the activities. Here at DemandBase, we're very account focused, where activity is not as big of a deal to us. We'll tell them a guideline of 60 activities a day is what they need to get done. But in reality, what they're doing is they're using, tools to understand who are the accounts that are most in market for their solutions, and then going after those accounts accordingly with strategic, highly personalized messaging. So I care more about the quality of that messaging. And one of the cool competitions that we run around some of that is around direct mail. Direct mail is a really big piece to grabbing attention of the big accounts that you can't normally get in touch with. So we'll say, hey, today is your direct mail send day. Let's get them all sent today. Whoever gets the most coins, tickets, prizes, whatever, will win, some more coins and things like that, to motivate them to get that done so that on Monday, the following week, they can follow up with all those direct mailers. So I think that's a really cool way to take away some of the metrics that don't matter as much to SDRs and still motivate them to do the things that you need them to do.
Yeah. And I think the thing I loved about when we were talking about the story, and even in the answer you just shared now, is how you're tying the SDRs, like the overall goal of the company, right? Like every company has an account list, and I'll give you guys the credit here. I know you said the tool, but you're talking about your own tool, DemandBase, helping you to really push the accounts and see the activities so that you can be smarter about your reach outs. So there, the SDR knows, hey, I'm affecting the bottom line of a company that's on our list. I have better insight. And now not only am I tracking my activity to get coins and rewards, but I'm ultimately helping the bottom line. And that has visibility across the entire organization. And I know we're going to talk more about how you drive visibility for your SDR team, but I think that's so motivating in how you're tying them to those bigger goals, whether it be, hey, marketing cares about this account list, senior leadership cares about this account list, and giving them really cool tools to drive activity so that when that deal does close down the line, they have that win of saying, oh, I won that competition with direct mail, and now that company has now closed. So it ties back those smaller metrics that sometimes can seem little into really big wins for your SDR team. And that I think is super motivating, and you do a really good job of that. Moving on into some of the challenges, right? So we've talked about a lot of the wins, but you had some challenges with the SDR team before you joined SalesScreen. And I think if you could highlight just some of the things that you've been able to kind of win, right? Like we have the poll where our participants are thinking about how to motivate their team against activities, but then also getting them to think about data entry. So maybe if there's some examples you have tied to those two, you could help out some other people.
Yeah, absolutely. So there were probably 3 things that stood out as like my top initiatives that I was looking to gain when I first started talking to SalesScreen. One of them is that first point, which is how do we bring the fun, the motivation, all of that back to the SDR team? It was very clear right from the beginning that was going to be something that SalesScreen could solve because they were going to have the fun competitions, the prizes, the battles, and things like that. So there was healthy competition across the board. So that was a really easy one for me to check off my list. Another one, when it comes to measurement, I spend a lot of my time as an SDR leader inside of the Salesforce dashboards, and they're very restricting in terms of what you can actually run, how many different reports you can put in one dashboard, and they're just overall not the prettiest thing to look at. So one of the things that I wanted was some more custom dashboards that I can look at and understand, where do my SDRs rank on the leaderboards of each different metric? How can I show conversion rates from a discovery meeting to pipeline opportunity? And SalesScreen actually was able to do that, where we work very closely with our fantastic CSM Maria, who helps us with all these dashboards, and they're just really easy to digest, understand, and even edit. So if you want to move things around and change up the way you view your dashboards, you totally can. So I have them built for me. They're built for our individual teams. Really helpful. And then I think the third thing that we needed was visibility, because when everybody was remote, it was hard for our executives to connect with the SDR team and understand who are our top players, who are the people that actually needed some more help. So I can share links now to our competition with our executives so they can see how the SDRs are doing and who our top dogs are and who are the people we need to invest some more time in to help them get better. So those are probably our top 3 initiatives. And then there was one that came by surprise, where I actually wasn't looking to gain additional pipeline from this. I just wanted to like make it fun for everybody. But I found that this actually really drove urgency around pipeline for my team, because the more competitions we ran, the more excited the team got, the quicker we got to more meetings, which would then eventually turn into more pipeline. So it actually helped me and my SDR leaders a ton from that perspective, because now there's visibility into all of it and we can really push the team on driving that urgency.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think we just answered the question in the poll, or from a participant, how you measure and visualize activities to drive better conversions and get to that close one. But since it's a specific question, if you have anything to add around like the measurement or visibility part, just to kind of double down on that, that would be awesome.
Yeah, well, I think one of the key pieces is figuring out, like, let's say one of your big initiatives is driving pipeline or, meetings booked. Find out where your actual meetings booked are coming from, and then share that with the team. Say, hey, in enterprise right now, we're doing great over the phone. So if you're on enterprise, you have to be looking at all the different types of phone metrics that you have. Now, one of the good things is SalesScreen is really easy when it comes to taking your metrics that you might already have in Salesforce and pushing them into the actual product. So then you don't have to do any extra work from an SDR side. So my SDRs, we use Outreach, where we'll still log our activities through Outreach like we normally will, and it seamlessly pushes right into SalesScreen, so we don't have to worry about doing any extra work there.
Perfect. Thanks for doubling down on that for one of our participants. All right, you ready to do the big reason why we're here? You guys are looking at Eric. He's got a prop. We almost asked Kevin to bring his own costume for this because we have heard great things. But I really want to dig into Shark Week because I think it's one of the really incredible things that you've done to rally not only your SDR team, but your entire organization around SDR activities and measurement and goals. So before everyone thinks that Shark Week is, the National Geographic Week, let's double down on that. And just, if you could tell the group about Shark Week and how it started, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually kind of funny. We did our last Shark Week during the actual National Geographic Shark Week. So it worked out really well. But no, Shark Week is an initiative that started probably 2.5 years ago at DemandBase, where we were facing a challenge that at the end of every quarter, we'd push as much pipeline in as possible, where we would start our next quarters off really slow. So we were trying to think of ways that we can actually boost pipeline right away to start a new quarter. And that's where Shark Week was kind of born, where the whole idea was you can't just rely on your SDR team to prospect to get enough pipeline for you to grow to the lengths that you want to grow as a company. So it originally started as the SDR team and the account executives coming together and dedicating 1 week solely to prospecting, where the AEs would be involved, the SDRs would be involved. We'd run competitions around who books the most meetings and creates the most opportunities. We would have teams of AEs and SDRs together competing against each other. And it was so successful for us that we actually just kept expanding it to the rest of the org. So now it's not only do we have goals for the SDRs and AEs during Shark Week, the CSMs will step in and run programs around what they're trying to drive. Our support team has initiatives that they want to get involved. We even run social programs so that if someone in finance wants to post about Shark Week, they get the most engagement, they can win a prize. So it's really having everybody focus in on the company initiatives, which typically are meetings booked, pipeline, things like that, and rallying around all of those goals. And of course, we'll give out prizes and things like that as well.
Yeah, I think it's so cool. I mean, you mentioned some stories where even HR in some cases gets involved, which that's probably the furthest thing sometimes in an organization from sales. What are some of the other unexpected contributions from non-sales teams that helped you with your bottom line as an SDR manager that led from Shark Week?
Well, I think there are 2 things that stand out that are really fun. Number one, when an executive or a leader of a team gets involved in Shark Week, that's just the ultimate competition. So for example, if our VP of sales decides to compete against their team, like that's motivating for someone on that team, because they're like, I can't have my manager beat me at my own job. So that's always a fun one. Another one that stands out is our CSM team getting involved. I think has been really cool. I think it was Q2, they had a goal of getting 15 new members to our customer advocacy program. And we're like, okay, 15, that's pretty good. So I started measuring everybody on how many people we got to sign up. We ended up getting 120 people to sign up just from Shark Week through that initiative. So the CSMs were all in, which was great. So it was really exciting to see some of that, come to fruition.
Yeah.
And I can actually comment on that one, because I was a recipient of many of your Shark Weeks from your CSM teams. And so it is always exciting to be on the other side of it and see what is all this activity going on that's coming from so many different people. And it definitely worked on me, because I went ahead and did what was asking me for both the many times during Shark Week. I just didn't realize it was Shark Week at the time. So
that's the secret. We don't talk about Shark Week.
Yeah, we don't talk about it. But
it's out there now.
It is. Everyone knows now.
What have been some of like the results from Shark Week? Like you talked about them like going from 15 to 120 signups, but in general, like when you think about the progression of Shark Week, how have you really seen that enhance your metrics and help your bottom line?
Yeah, so Shark Week is huge for all of the metrics that we care about. We'll do like a company rally, like rallying cry, where I think last quarter was like 200 meetings booked or something like that we had to do. And when we hit it, it's really exciting for everybody. And our executives are cheering us on, and everyone else in the company is, so it's great. But I think when I look at the SDR team in general, because we're the ones that are really diving into SalesScreen, I was now able to take something that was, okay, maybe one competition of who gets the most meetings in this week. Now I can use SalesScreen to create fun competitions every single day of Shark Week, where it's like, okay, the East SDR team versus the West one day, or we'll pair people up into battles against each other. And that has really sparked a lot of fun activity, a lot of fun, collaboration, and, a little bit of trash talk across the team, which is great.
Yeah.
And when we actually look back at all these Shark Weeks that have been so great, the metrics like prove that it's working. Where one that really stands out to me is we had a 132% increase in activities around the KPIs that matter to us while we're running a competition compared to when we're not. I mean, 132% is huge.
Crazy.
I'm going to keep running competitions based off that number. So,
yeah.
So we have our next Shark Week coming up, and the same thing is going to be in the plans where, we're going to sit down with Maria and talk through what are some of the things that we can actually build for our teams to make those competitions stand out and be fun for the team.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think, there's so many cool ideas there, not only around rallying the company and rallying teams, but like managers against the team or team members versus teams, like battling. So there's so many unique ways that people can get involved in Shark Week in general. I think the one thing to double down on, just for everyone who attended, like the second pain point that they named was around inputting data. So how has these like competitions and rewards and just like visualization of the data helped you to push your team to like be cleaner about their data entry, right? It's a problem, like no matter what role you're in, clean data is so important. So I think digging into that a little bit just to help us understand, has it changed? Has it gotten easier for you? Is it, still a problem? Any insights you have there that might help?
Well, I think it's definitely changed because now every SDR is accountable towards the things that they're doing and the data that they're logging. So we actually have the integration with Slack set up. So I'll always we'll set up that in Slack. If you get a meeting booked, it's going to pop up in there and everyone can cheer you on and all of that good stuff. If it doesn't show there, you logged something wrong and you have to go back into Salesforce and fix it, because if it's not in Salesforce, it doesn't exist. If it's not in SalesScreen, it doesn't exist. That's kind of the way that we operate. Yeah. So it's really put the accountability and onus on the SDRs to say, if I want to get my shout out, my visibility, and win coins, I better have my data, right.
Yeah. Awesome. Another question just popped up about Shark Week. What's the timing of the Shark Week competition? So is it a few weeks before the end of the quarter? Do you guys try to do them in the beginning of the quarter? Do you change it up throughout the year? Anything around that? Obviously it's a week, but where, when they're happening in the quarter is helpful.
Yeah, so we try to do it as early in the quarter as possible because remember, we're coming off the massive push to end a quarter where we need to start off hot. So we try to do it as early as possible. Sometimes, I think like 4th of July gets in the way of Q3, so we got to push it out a little bit. But the earlier the better, because then it's just going to lead to more pipeline come the end of the quarter.
Okay. This is the last kind of question I have, but any interesting things that you've done specifically, Kevin, around Shark Week, maybe dress up in a costume, how you keep your team motivated? Is there anything else that you want to share, like personally as the leader of the team, that you've rallied yourself around Shark Week for?
Well, I think the whole idea is to make it fun, like get everybody excited. And I know prospecting's hard. So what can I do as a leader to help, motivate and excite people? So yes, I do wear a huge blue shark costume. It's kind of like the left shark from the Katy Perry Super Bowl halftime show. That's fun. I try to do some fun content where I'll just walk around in my shark suit and try to, get people amped up and share it on social. But I think one thing that I really like is when I bring Shark Week into other organizations. It's really cool hearing how that changes their culture and their vibe. So, I love talking about Shark Week. I think it's great, especially when you can combine it with the DemandBase and SalesScreen tools together. So I think those just stand out, the fun to it, and then being able to kind of spread the Shark Week love.
Yeah, you can tell you're definitely passionate about Shark Week, and it's done great things for your team. So it's something that is fun for you as a leader, but also is driving the results that you're looking for. Go ahead.
And just chime in here. If everybody's interested in perhaps seeing Kevin in a shark suit, I've actually shared one of his blogs that he has actually describes what is Shark Week to everybody. It's actually on the Zoom chat right now. And so you can either take a look at that later or now. But there's some really fun things in there, and you will get to see Kevin in a shark suit and learn a little more about Shark Week. So Dana, I think we wanted to do one more poll here, just to see how you guys thought about Shark Week and also to understand what you guys' understanding of it is. And so I'm gonna pull up another poll right now, and it's gonna come on in about the next few seconds. And so here we're gonna just launch it right now. It's a very short poll. It is, does your organization have a Shark Week equivalent? So that is now in the Zoom poll that you can see in the Zoom toolbar. Responses are slowly coming in. It's very interesting. Let's give it a few more seconds, guys. 5 more seconds on this one. There we go. And I'm going to quickly share the results for both Kevin and Dana before we start to go moving into the Q&A section. So sharing results right now. The number one winner is that no, we do not, at 59% of those who participated in the poll. They do not have Shark Week Flynn, but there is around 12% of those who do, and around 30% of those who do not, but are interested in learning more about this type of program. So very exciting, guys. At this time, Dana, if there's no other questions, we can see whether there is anything.
Yep, there are some questions popping in.
Excellent.
What kind of prep work does your team do leading up to Shark Week? Is there anything that you rally around the week before Shark Week?
Definitely. So from my perspective, as the person who's kind of leading Shark Week, there's a lot that goes into, actually building that program in terms of you have to work alongside a lot of other functions of the org. So you have to understand what does each function want to be measured on and prized on. I work with marketing, so we could set up programs that align directly before Shark Week. So all the teams can follow up with those programs during Shark Week. We will do a prep meeting the week before where I'll tell everybody about all the programs so that SDRs and AEs can get aligned and start to figure out their plan and strategy. So there is prep work that goes into it, but my big thing is I don't want my team doing any admin work during Shark Week. I just want them to hit the ground running and go. So that's why that prep is really important.
Yeah. What's the kickoff to Shark Week look like? Is it a meeting, an email? Is it just like a Slack message? Like, how do you start on a Monday to make sure that people are really feeling excited?
Well, I would say you cannot avoid me the week before or during Shark Week. I'm everywhere. So we will do a kickoff meeting I think it's like 4 days before Shark Week starts. Then I'll follow up with emails with all the dashboards and all the tracking information. And then we have a Shark Week Slack channel where I am trying to pump everybody up in there as well. And then during Shark Week, I will actually dress in my shark suit. And every single morning, I will shout out people who have done well. I'll bring on guest executives that want to talk about their teams and how they're doing. So I try to make it fun every morning to kick it off right and then get everybody in the right mindset for the rest of the day.
Yeah. What about how you end it, right? Like how you're amping them up, you're doing this kickoff. Like, are you sharing the results at the end? Are you doing like Shark Week awards? What are some of the ways that you make sure that it ends on a high note? So the next one, people are excited or want to get that, end prize.
Yeah. So for the overall team goal, so it's like the company goal is whatever, 200 meetings booked. I will be refreshing that dashboard and taking screenshots and putting it in Slack constantly up until we hit the number. So that gets everybody really excited. But I won't share like the individual winners because I want to do that on a larger company scale. So I do that either on a town hall or like a sales all hands meet or revenue all hands meeting, something like that. Because I want to get them the visibility they deserve for working so hard during Shark Week and crushing it.
Yeah, that's great.
We also actually created a couple badges too inside of SalesScreen. We have our MVP is the Megalodon. So that's a really good one where we, associate a ton of coins to it. So we try to make it really fun in that perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely fun to watch, even from the outside. Like Maria told me about Shark Week and I went into the instance just to see some of the things that were going on. So even not being a part of it and being along for the ride is kind of fun too.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions from the audience? You can put them in the chat window, as we said, but if they're, please go ahead and type them in, and then we'll go ahead and have them addressed, just so, as a reminder. I'll ask the question though. So Dana, just to see, for Kevin here is, and I think this is a nice little wrap up for us, is like, what is this? What do you love about the game of selling? And why do you love what you were doing as an SDR leader?
Well, I love competition. Like you saw it in that LinkedIn post where I called out a few people at your company where I'm super competitive and I want to beat the number that's in front of me. So that's what I love about sales. I love being able to look at, okay, here's the pipeline number that I got to get to this quarter. What do I have to do to get there? And then start pushing the team to do so. So I think that's a great piece. And that's what I love about sales. From an SDR leadership perspective, the things that I love is when you can really see the light turn on for an SDR who's new at your company, and then actually develop them over time to get them to the stage in their career that they want to be, whether it's an AE, in marketing, wherever. So, the coaching and the competitive aspect of selling, I think is what's most important to me.
Great. Well, I don't think there are any other questions. I mean, Kevin, the prep for this was so fun. The content is so great. So thank you so much for helping us to put this together and sharing something that you're so passionate about. And we will definitely be watching in SalesScreen. And if anyone needs any advice on their own Shark Week, I know a bunch of you had said that was something you were interested in. Your CSM can help you. And Kevin also said that he was open to connections as well. So feel free to reach out directly. Thank you guys all for attending. It was really fun to do this. So hopefully we'll see you soon.
Yeah. So before we sign off, I'd love to tell you one quick thing about our new site on the psychology of gamification, guys. It has a lot of great insights on the science of gamification as to why it works, how it works. And there's even a fun little quiz you can take that will basically tell whether you and or your team members are intrinsically or extrinsically motivated. Do they have internal motivation, or do they need outside factors to go ahead and trigger that? Highly recommend you check it out. I'm going to go ahead and be putting a link to it also in the chat window right now, and take a look at it. In addition, I'm just going to wrap this up here, and let's move this one over. As Dana said, let's connect. This is all the contact information for Kevin, Dana, and myself. You can see their email as well as their LinkedIn. Definitely reach out to them. And Dana, that should basically be it. I want to thank you guys both. This was a really great session. Enjoyed every second of it. I think a lot of people learned a lot today. Let's hope to see everybody again on a future webinar. Great. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.